everyone, welcome back to Kat's Book Corner. I'm Kat, where we talk about all things book and bookish. Now, today, I am going to be talking about my spoiler thoughts about the books that I've read last month. There is a video from last week where I talked about all the books I read without any spoilers, but this one will have spoilers for Gideon the Ninth, The Naturals, Ember in the Ashes, Spider-Man the Darkest Hour, and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. So if you don't want any spoilers, please click off now. Okay, let's get started with Gideon the Ninth. Now this one, as I said before, wasn't my favorite, but it did interest me enough to continue the series. I haven't started it yet, but I might soon. Now this one, I loved the relationship between Gideon and Harrow, and I loved how they had to learn to work together. Like that one scene in the catacombs where Harrow has to get inside Gideon's mind so they can fight the creature together, using Gideon's style of fighting and Harrow's knowledge of anatomy. I really liked that. I also liked how it kind of foreshadowed the ending, where Gideon knew she would have to sacrifice her life in order for them to beat the Lecter. And it was kind of sad that she realized that in order for them to beat the Lecter, she would have to lose her life in order for Harrow to become a Lecter, where they would become one person. One thing I didn't like, the middle seemed rushed and slow, if that makes any sense. Too much was going on, but not enough to really captivate me. And I kind of saw the big twist with the sick person of the fourth house being the one who would end up turning on them. Now, I did like it, but it wasn't something that surprised me. And I really liked how the relationship grew between Gideon and Harrow, because at the beginning they sort of hated each other, and Gideon wanted to get out of the ninth house. She did not want to be there, and Harrow was keeping her around to be her guardian when Harrow got the letter to become a Lecter. And I also like how they grew together, Gideon knowing that Harrow needed her, and then learning to work together, and then Harrow sharing the secrets of the ninth house that she swore she never would share. And then you learn that the ninth house is guarding that big secret that they have to keep. It's crazy. And then the ending where Harrow is so distraught. She's telling the Emperor, we have to go back for Gideon. We have to bring her back. And the Emperor saying there's nothing that he can do. And Harrow just being so distraught that there's nothing she can do to save someone she has grown to love. So I can't wait to see where that relationship takes in the next book, Harrow the Ninth, because I really am interested. I did really like their relationship. Okay, moving on to The Naturals. As I said in my previous video, I read this one twice, because I wanted to see if you could figure out the twist by reading it again. I did not see that twist coming with her aunt being that FBI agent and wanting her to be just like her. And I really thought that she killed her mom, but she didn't. She was too late, and the mom was already dead. And I kind of like the love triangle. Dean sort of grew on me. I didn't like him in the beginning, but he grew on me, and I know that she's probably going to choose Dean because they are similar, but Michael is my absolute favorite. I really, really like Michael. He's a lot different than any other, character I've seen written before, and I liked it. I love Lila. She's great. I love how she always calls people out for being a liar, even though she's a liar. And I love, the found family in this. The found family was one of the best found families I've ever seen. where they can just bounce off each other. That's one of my favorite themes in any book, found family, where they can just bounce off each other. Like that truth or dare scene. You're just going back and forth and you can't really, like, you feel like you're actually there. I really like Sloane. She took a while too to grow on me, but I did like her. And when I was reading it the second time, there are little hints of figuring out when she's the bad guy. Like how she always took a special interest more in Cassie than Dean, even though she was teaching both of them. I just thought it was very, very interesting. And also, like, having to learn how to think like a serial killer and learning about Dean's past, like, just a little bit. Because I know the next book is a little bit more about Dean's past. But I do like that his father is the person that everyone looked for, and he was the one who kind of got left behind because it was the only way that people would look out for him. And he could think like his father, and he hates that he can get into the mindset of a killer so easily when he shouldn't be able to, because he knows Cassie has a hard time getting into the mind of a killer when he can just slip right into it. I did like the ending scene where it's a stand-up between Michael and Dean, and they don't really know who's on whose side, and they start like threatening each other, and then the agent, I keep forgetting her name, let's see, what was it? Locke. Cassie was tricking Locke into letting her guard down in order for Cassie to outthink her, which I really liked. And Cassie was doing whatever she could to protect Michael and Dean. But I still think out of all the characters, Michael's still my favorite, even though he's not the main character. Okay, moving on to A Number in the Ashes. Now, this is my favorite book that I read, not counting Spider-Man because that's a personal issue, but I really liked it. I liked that you got to see Lila's growth, because in the beginning she felt like she was a coward for running even though her brother told her to run. But then you get to see her stand up in the end to be like, fight against the resistance, who is kind of awful, who only helped her because her parents were part of the resistance. And you learn about her parents and the other different slaves that are working at the school. You get to see them, and she saves one of them, but she has to leave Cook, and you don't even figure out her real name, but you have like suspicions. I'm not going to share those because I don't want to be wrong. And then Elias, who doesn't want to fight, he's planning on running away in your first chapter you get of him. But then that big twist comes where they tell him, if you do this, you'll be as free as you ever were. And it turns out it's a challenge where you can be the next emperor and his blood snake. And Helena wasn't my favorite character, but the deal that she made to save Elias, I really liked that. Like, she had to follow someone's orders to be the blood snake, and it would save her best friend, who she actually is in love with. I did love the love square, because Lila has two love interests and Elias had two love interests. Lila had that person from the resistance and Elias had Helena and Lila. Lila and Elias I really like together, and they're probably going to end up together because it's the series with both their POVs. I really liked Helena's conflict, though. That was really interesting to me. And I also really liked that he was at peace with dying at the end, because he knew he did the right thing not trying to kill Lila, and he knew what everyone in the Empire was doing was wrong, so he knew he was doing it, and he was finally free. And then Lila comes in and blows everything up and saves him. because she knows that he can help her save her brother. I also really liked that they gave you depth to the villains. Like, what was his name? The twins. Well, Marcus and his twin, and they give you a little bit of depth to them, like during the one challenge where you had to kill your opposing partner. It was Elias versus Helena, and Elias did succeed in what would have been a fatal blow if she wasn't wearing the magic vest that she forgot she had on, or Marcus having to kill his twin brother. Like, it gave you so much depth. Like, there's even one scene at the end where he's so happy that he won and he's going to be emperor that he looks behind him to, like, maybe thought he would see his brother. And I really liked that because it reminds me of that one scene in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 where George looks behind him to try and see Fred's there, but Fred's not there because he died. But I really did like it. Okay, moving on to Spider-Man. This one has 3 stories. The Darkest Hours, where he has to team up with Black Cat in order to defeat the Ancients who are coming to get revenge on him because they think that he killed their brother. He didn't. Their brother's assistant is the one who actually laid the fatal blow. And you get to see him going through so much conflict, being like, maybe I should run, maybe I should leave, maybe I should go by myself so I'm killed and they'll all be safe. And you get to see like his relationship with Mary Jane in this, which he's willing to try and do whatever it takes to help her. And you get to see some conflict with his villains too, because the Ancients use Rhino in order to get to him. And then he has to save Rhino. And Rhino agrees, you saved me, I'll save you. As long as you give me a 24-hour window to get out of the city, I will help you beat these Ancients. Which I really like, because it gives you depth to some of the villains in Spider-Man that you're used to being the bad guys. But these one weren't. He wanted to help, because the enemy you know is better than the ones you don't know. The second one was Down These Mean Streets, where he has to team up with the police department, who hates him, in order to stop the drug, which is, what is it? XXX. Stop the development of that. And it's from like multiple POVs, like you get MJ, you get a few of the actors that she's working with, you get Peter Parker, you get some of the students that he's working with when he's teaching them, you get the police. And I really liked that. And you also get Doc Ock. He's the one manufacturing the drug in order to make a little bit more money, in order to facilitate his actual plans. Which you don't really get to know what his actual plans are. You just see him in prison being like, I'm gonna get out of here like so soon. Which it was so interesting because I've never read a book where you got different POVs from the villain, minor characters, and the major character. And you even see like conflict in one of the kids who is not a bad kid, but he knows where the drugs come from. He knows everything about it, but he's not exactly on their side. So he eventually goes to their side because he got shot and he thinks he should get them back. So there are little bad things that happen, and Peter of course blames himself because that's the Spider-Man way, always blaming himself. But I liked that one, but it wasn't my favorite of them. I really liked The Darkest Hours more than that one. Now, Drowned in Thunder is where his spider sense is getting messed up because Electro, who's being possessed by a human virus, like AI basically, he's being possessed by that, who's using his powers against his will and puts something inside Peter's bloodstream in order to manipulate his spider sense. So he's seeing people he never thought of as bad, or people he thought of as bad but not necessarily would try and hurt him. Like JJJ. He always saw JJJ as an enemy, yet never an enemy that would actively harm him. And that's when his spider sense starts going haywire, which causes him to mistrust but also trust himself at the same time, because he says, well, my spider sense has never been wrong, so I must trust it. And then it starts going even more haywire when they manipulate it even more to make him doubt Aunt May and Mary Jane, who have to team up and try and find him to make sure that he's okay, because he's just started to run and run. And eventually it's that big battle where he has to convince Electra to fight against the thing controlling him. And eventually he does, and he blows up, and he's the one who saves the day. Like, the villain saves the day. And it concludes with him saying his sorries to Jonah, who actually sees himself in Spider-Man, which is why he's so against him. And you also get Jonah's point of view, trying to figure out why is Spider-Man blaming him, why is Spider-Man suddenly becoming what he thought he was, basically. And you get Jigsaw Jameson, which I love because it's so funny. And he has to say his apologies to Aunt May and Mary Jane, who obviously forgive him because they know something was happening. That's my second favorite. I really do love The Darkest Hours more than that one, but I did like the little hints to the comics and the old TV shows in that one. Now, the Half-Blood Prince, I'm not going to talk about much because a lot of people already know what happens in the Half-Blood Prince. Now, I really love some of the quotes where he's trying to explain to Snape what a nickname is, and Snape is like, I know what a nickname is, because he was always called nasty nicknames by the Marauders. Or Harry saying, you don't need to call me Sir Professor. This is the book. I respect Snape as a character. I do. I get that he's a very layered and has a lot to him. I personally dislike him, because this book kind of reminded me of that, because there's this one scene where he's teaching his Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and he knows that Neville Longbottom, whose biggest fear is Snape, is in his class, and he puts a picture on his wall of people suffering from the Cruciatus Curse, when he knows that's what Neville's parents suffered under. I don't like it. Also, you get to see Draco's internal conflict, not directly because you see it from Harry's POV obviously, but him struggling. He doesn't want to kill Dumbledore, and he obviously, I don't think he would have. He was lowering his wand right before the Death Eaters came in, so I really think he would have agreed to Dumbledore's terms and would have not done anything. And also, I don't like Dumbledore as a character because he's raising Harry as a pig for slaughter, and I really don't like that. But I get why he does it, because he can't tell Harry, otherwise he can't come back. But still, he would have been raising him for a pig for slaughter if he didn't know Voldemort had his blood inside of him, for him to be able to come back. But I do like, there's a little bit of hints to his past, like why he put on the ring, and they mention the Peverils, and they also mention Regulus so much in this book. So when you get to R.A.B., if you're looking really closely, like if you read this the first time but were looking really closely for details, you might have been able to figure it out, because I don't think they ever say Arcturus as the middle name, but they say Regulus, and they say Sirius's brother, so you know his name is Black. So there is that. I love Dobby. Obviously, he's such a good character. And this is the most romance-heavy book, which I'm not always a fan of, but I like the way it was shown in this. Like, Ron and Hermione being jealous of each other, not knowing that they have feelings for each other, obviously. And then the Lavender thing, which Ron just gets tired in the middle and doesn't even break up with her in person. He just kind of lets it fizzle. And then the Ginny and Harry thing, where Harry's just jealous of anyone who's with Ginny, and he tries to convince himself it's just because she's Ron's sister. And then he kisses her in front of everyone, and she's like, I've been waiting for that. which I really like. And I love the memories that you get of Tom Riddle's past, because you get to see what fully made him become Voldemort. Was it not having a mother's love? Was it growing up in an orphanage? It could have been a number of many things. And you find out he was born under a love potion, and you figure out where he learned about Horcruxes, and you learn what Horcruxes are. And then there's Dumbledore's death and his funeral, where even Umbridge is there. I don't get why they invited him. I don't get why they invited Umbridge to the funeral, because both of the past ministers were there. And this is also the book where it takes 2 chapters for you to even get to Harry, because you have the ministers meeting each other, which I'm not a fan of that chapter. I think it's kind of boring. And then you have Spinner's End, which is a very interesting chapter because it mother's love. It's what saves Harry in the end. It's what saves so many people in the end. A mother's love. It starts and ends with it. I always love that. Well, that's the end of my discussion on all of these books, and I could talk forever about so many of them. But I'll end it here because it is getting a little long. So if you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want, we can talk in the comments. That'd be fun. Bye.